rematch. I know the rematch, that's something that they both want. Hearn and Ryan, let's try to fast forward a little bit hypothetically to a year later. Could that be the first match for both of them coming back after a year?
Who knows?
What can you tell us about this fight here that's going on in Saudi?
Nothing really. I mean, there's really just exploratory conversations. His Excellency has an incredible vision for boxing. He's got a lot of ideas. The stuff that was reported, half was correct, half was incorrect. We're bound by confidentiality on a lot of these things. But there's a lot of exciting things being discussed, and if there's a way to bring boxing together, you've seen him do that quite effectively so far. I think it's something that a lot of people would be interested in.
The team concept with 5 versus 5 was pretty
Massive.
cool.
The numbers were huge, and the narrative was huge. I mean, don't forget, you've got Matcham and Queensbury. Obviously, about the right, but in the UK, it's like we're like, I don't know, New York and Boston, or I don't know, whatever you want to, So, and it's like, it was pretty fierce. So it was a huge media story, and although we didn't do very well in the tournament, the show did very, very well on the numbers, and I think it's a concept that can work.
Eddie, when you brought the the Chavez Jr. Danny Jacobs fight here, kind of by not choice, you had to. Could you envision what we saw tonight?
No, I mean, just the best atmosphere. Knowledgeable fight fans. I mean, even when we started the prelim fights, it was really busy. And I think, I don't think we've got credit either for providing free air conditioning as well. Like I said to fans tonight, I think it was a really nice touch from Metro.
We'll peg you on the back after.
Yeah. But I think when there were so many people in here earlier, I was like, they're watching the boxing and they're getting a nice cool arena. So I think that there's not a fight that you could bring here that wouldn't do well. As long as it's a good fight and as long as it's a good card, they understand it, they get it, and we will always be in Phoenix at least 2 times a year, hopefully 3 times a year. And like when you look at Bam, you'd think that Bam back in San Antonio would make sense, but it's difficult to take him away from Phoenix now as well.
I was going to ask you, he's a star now. He can draw anywhere. The rematch, we'd love to have him back in San Antonio.
Yeah.
Is that on the table?
Yeah, it just, can you do 10,000 plus in San Antonio?
If you can do it in Arizona, you can do it now.
Well, do you want to make sure, can you guarantee me the game? No, but that's,
I'll guarantee.
yeah, I'm sure you will, yeah. Right, yeah.
He'll put the money up for you, no problem.
That is honestly, that's the reality of it. I know I can do 10,000 here, probably 12,000 for the rematch. Can you do that in San Antonio? And I'd like to say yes, but it's a little bit unproven. But we have to go back there at some point with Bam, because it wouldn't be weird not to. So we'll have to see.
Eddie, I know part of the storyline of this fight was Chocolatito sparring Bam. I know Mr. Honda isn't big on his fighters facing each other, but I mean it's an excellent fight.
To be honest with you, if it wasn't down to Mr. Honda, I would have made that fight already. But I respect Mr. Honda. He cares for his fighters, and I care for him as well. But I want to see him make a lot of money, and sometimes the right dance partner helps you do that. And as big as the unification is, it's not probably as big as the Chocolatito fight, But that's just stuff we have to, speak to Bam and Robert about and map out his career. Your question about maximising his money, he's making a lot of money, but now he moves into that top 5 pound for pound list, or where it's close to. He deserves more and more and more, and I think he's an outstanding fighter.
Eddie, I don't know if you saw, but Virgil Ortiz was in he was sitting down watching the fight here live. Obviously, you have Boots Ennis. That was a big fight that they wanted at 147. Obviously, Virgil's now at 154. Could you has there been talks about when you talk to Jerron Ennis maybe in the future?
No, Jerron would love that fight. I mean, I want to see Jerron. Obviously, fights in 2 weeks. I want to see him unify the division, try and clean up at 147, then move to 54. And if Terence Crawford gets through Madrimov, which I don't think he does, then Boots Ennis will clean out Terence Crawford.
Why do you think he won't get past Madrimov?
Because I think they're underestimating him. I think he's a very, very good fighter. He's extremely tough. He hits very, very hard. And it's all like, Canelo after this, after this, after. Don't get me wrong, Crawford's the favourite in the fight. But Madrimov is a very, very tough fighter. He's got great movement, fit, strong guy in his prime. As I said, punches very hard, and that's not an easy fight.
So you're gonna rely on that as well. That if possibly, if he does beat Madrimov, do you think he still will goes up and try to face Canelo? Won't give him maybe a chance? Canelo versus Crawford, because I know he's very active and spoken about that fight.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's down to his excellency. I think the only person that can make that fight is his excellency, because of what Canelo wants for that fight. So you're gonna have to pay up for it, and the only way that's gonna pay the money that Sal wants for that fight is in Saudi Arabia.
Eddie, the circle of life in boxing is kind of like the young guy beats the legend, and in the process, kind of like, you know, picks up his fans along the way. Is that kind of like your goal for tonight?
Yeah, I think that. I mean, it wasn't necessarily the goal, but I think that you're right. I think that happens. I mean, you know, I'm sure there was a lot of mixed feelings tonight, because I think the Mexicans do also like Jessie. They love the way he fights. He fights like a Mexican. You know, he's beaten Quadras, he's beaten Estrada, and they know and respect the smaller weight classes. So, yeah, I think that would be the case.
What do you think of the scenario where it looks like maybe Conor McGregor is going to be on that UFC card at the Sphere around September 14th, and yet Canelo's that's always been his day. Do you think Canelo would move off that date?
Depends where he fights. You know, who knows if His Excellency does a deal with Canelo for Crawford, and I don't know, maybe another fight I think has been talked about, or, you know, if PBC do a fight. I mean, I think he'll fight Berlanga next. I do. You know, I think when you look at the options, he's going to have a fight before he fights Crawford or before he fights someone else. So who else is there to fight? Well, you've got two mandatories. One is William Skull, who I've never heard before in my life, with all due respect to him. I'm sure he's a good fighter. And the other one is Edgar Berlanga, who's a Puerto Rican knockout artist who fought on ESPN, fought on DAZN. Everybody knows him, and it's a competitive fight. So I think he'll fight Berlanga next. But
A fight in New York, right? Doesn't that fight
I
make
don't know.
more
I think
sense?
Vegas, New York, wherever, you know. But you know, if there's the Sphere fight, then maybe they want to do it in New York. I'm not sure.
Well, Canelo hasn't fought in New York, at least recently. Is that you want to?
Fought there against Rocky Fielding.
Oh, you're right,
Yeah,
a few
about
years ago.
4 years. I like it, but you know, Canelo is a bit of a creature of habit as well. He likes his Vegas fights, but also he likes fighting in Texas. But New York, you know, it's like different.
I wanted to ask you, Raymond Ford.
Yes.
The ball fight was so good. I think.
Yeah, I
it's the
thought
fight
he,
of
I
the
thought he
year.
won the fight, but you know, it's a very close fight. He probably stayed at 126, one fight too long.
That was my question.
But it was a big payday. It was a big opportunity in a 5v5. He's moving to 130, and I would like him to fight Lamont Roach for the World Championship in October, November on the East Coast.
Eddie, does Matchroom have any plans for Mexican Independence Day? Or weekend, sorry.
Tequila? I don't know, maybe, yeah. I'm not sure. You know, traditionally, obviously, Canelo fights that weekend, and now there's the UFC event that weekend as well. So sometimes it's a bit of a log jam, but you know, we're doing a lot in Mexico, and we'll be back there on August the 31st.
Eddie, in a perfect world, who does Bam fight next? Like for you.
In Niue?
Fair?
Yeah. No, I think the Estrada rematch does big business. I mean, he'd be a big favourite going into that fight, but it was competitive, and he dropped him, you know, and I think it was just the most crushing of body shots. Like, I would have actually liked to have seen it gone on more. I don't know, like, you know, Estrada's a very, very good finisher in the back half of the fight, but the body shot was so well placed, you know. But I think Estrada rematch, unification, Chocolatito, Inoue. I think at some point he's going to move to 118, but I'd like to see him unify first at 115.